Could you explain to me the meaning of the title "Death Magnetic"? Which is pretty weird title.
Yeah, I know it's weird. No, I can't explain it. It's just it's in a song. There's a song on the album called "My Apocalypse," and in that song is the word the two words "death magnetic," and we were kind of sitting around a couple of months ago trying to figure all the stuff out, and we were trying to figure out what to do with the album title and the song titles and all this type of stuff. And I mean, James doesn't say a lot about these lyrics, but I really felt, I mean, these are very, very dark lyrics, and I really felt that there was a kind of a thread running through the lyrics about death and redemption and suicide and forgiveness and all this type of stuff. So I really thought that the lyric or the title of the album should be something dark like that. I was even actually pushing for a title that had the word suicide in the title, and maybe having the word suicide in an album title. And then we kind of was sitting around, and then all of a sudden Kirk said, "What about Death Magnetic?" And then we kind of sat around and looked at each other, and after a while it was like, that's actually kind of really cool, because it sounds good, looks good when you write it down, and what the fuck does it mean? I don't. None of us really knows what it means. So there's a kind of a poetic beauty in it, and it's a little bit unusual, and so it's really about the energy of death, and about how death can kind of suck you in so many different ways, and it's really about, you'll see when you see the songs and the lyrics and so on. This is pretty dark stuff, and this is to me, it's the theme through the whole record, is just different kind of relationships with death, and the idea of death, and the anticipation of death, and so on. So Death Magnetic just had a kind of poetic quality to it.
There's some sort of concept within the album?
No, and most things with Metallica, man, I'm telling you, there aren't many, it doesn't start like that hardly ever. It always, it's like these things, they never start where they end.
Yeah.
They always start, and then you go on a journey somewhere, and all of a sudden, and then all of a sudden you have something. But there was no concept, like that. I was pretty sure that that we were gonna help James write lyrics like he did on some of the great records in the 80s, and stories and this and that, and I was inviting him, let's sit down and watch movies together like we used to, and let's talk about things in the news and all this type of stuff. And I could see quickly that maybe he needed to go through this experience by himself, and maybe I should just take a step back. And so slowly stuff started coming from him, and there was no concept, but I could see that there was a familiar kind of thing going through most of the songs. Okay. A similar thing going through most of the songs.
Okay, and so you mentioned the fact James wrote the lyrics on his own this time.
Yeah.
So because in Saint Anger, I think you all write it. You made many changes, like the guitar tuning, snare drumming, obviously, and everything was different on Saint Anger. You tried to explain. So this time was it like you wanted to experiment, or just to do like the
No, I think way? This time, Rick Rubin really said, most of this, in 2 years ago we did a tour, a summer tour. We didn't play in France, but we did a summer tour.
Yeah, it was in Donington.
Yeah, where we played Master Puppets, and so it was kind of fun to get to know that record again, and it was fun to embrace that record and learn to play it how we recorded it and so on. And Rick said, don't be scared of those records, because I think that he could feel that we have always had a fear of repeating ourselves, and a fear of doing the same thing, and I think it was very clear after Justice that we were not going to do any more of that stuff, whatever it was, we were going to go and do something else. And I think that we stayed away from those records for many, many years, as you know, and we tried all these other crazy things. And I think Rick said 2 or 3 things in the very beginning. He said, don't be scared of those records. listen to them, be inspired by them. You don't have to copy them, you don't have to repeat them, but you can feel good about those records, and you can think about music how you thought about music when you made those records, and you can listen to the same bands as you listened to when you made those records, and you can, you know, just think like you did when you made Ride the Lightning, Master Puppets, and Justice for All. And that was kind of the springboard, was to not be scared of those records. Mm-hmm. You know, so listen, I don't think Death Magnetic sounds like any of those records, but it's certainly, the easiest thing to say to you is it certainly does not sound like Saint Anger. Okay, that I can tell you. And it certainly does not sound like S&M. And it certainly does not sound like Reload and Load. And it certainly does not sound like the Black Album. And it's not a bunch of covers. So you can figure it out for yourself. It's difficult for me to say much beyond that, because next year we start playing indoors in Europe. Maybe I see you again 9 months from now, and then I can tell you. Right now, I'm too close to it, because what happens is you
at a distance.
Well, yeah, you know what I realized, you get high on the process, man. You get so high on just doing it that you don't know. So I don't know. So ask me 9 months from now, then I'll tell you.
But I noticed on the cover you used the former logo again, like the logo from the very first.
It's actually it's new. It's a new stretched out version of it.
Yeah, but it looks like
it's revisiting some of those things. Yeah.
So is it a way to say we're going back to our roots?
I don't know. It's a way of not being afraid of what we did in the 80s and not running away from it. I think maybe we spent too much time running away from it. And that's okay. Listen, I'm proud of the fact that we had the balls to do all this other crazy shit. But maybe, maybe we had to go through all these experiences to get to a point where Rick Rubin say, it's okay. So, I don't know. I'm pretty sure that all these records, kind of fit together in some weird way, and I'm pretty sure that if it wasn't for Saint Anger, Death Magnetic would not sound and feel and, have the kind of music that it does. You know what I mean? But the logo, sure, it's probably some way of saying, you know what, we're not scared of the past anymore.
Okay. And it's also your first time with Robert Trujillo, obviously in the studio. And so what was his role in the band and his impact on the songwriting?
His role in the band is easy. He's just such a good soul and such a good positive person to be around, and is so ready for anything. And he's Kirk. There were times on this record where Kirk was not around a lot because of his first baby and the new baby coming and all this. And Kirk was not there a lot. And Rob was a real great bouncing board between me and James to have Rob in. He's incredibly fast. We're trying, hey, try this idea, try that, James, why don't you try this? Then Rob would go, why don't you try and go to G instead of F sharp? And he's very quick, and he's very effortless, and he's very
he's a well-rounded.
Yeah, he's fucking awesome, man. It's such a pleasure to be around him, and I say that every time I say how awesome he is. I feel like I have to always say that, and that's not taking anything away from Jason, because Jason was awesome too, in a very different way. But Rob just fits. It's very easy with Rob. With Jason, maybe sometimes it was not so easy. And with Rob, it's very effortless. Great. It's been great. He still sometimes says, when we talk, he says, "You guys." I go, "It's not you guys, it's us." Okay, you're in the fucking band. You've been in this band for close to 6 years. It's almost half the time Jason was in the band. You know what I mean? It's twice as long as Cliff Burton. God rest his soul. You know what I mean? So it's he's a member of Metallica, and it's very good. It's
Okay, and as far as songwriting, did he have any input on the songwriting? Or?
Yeah, it's hard. I can't tell you. Yes, he absolutely had an impact. I can't tell you because the way we write, the way we wrote this record, it's not, okay, on Monday everybody show up with songs they've written. It wasn't like that. We wrote together, mostly me and James, but he was a big part of the me and James thing, and so he definitely had an impact on the writing. Yeah.
Okay, and you mentioned Cliff Burton. Considering the fact Rob plays with a finger, and he can maybe add something more complementary to your writing, you and James. Do you feel the same chemistry than back in the day with Cliff? That's far.
It's hard. Cliff was so special and so unique, and he was just his own. He was unlike anything that has ever been seen before or after. So I can't even. It's not. Rob has a little more. Maybe Rob has a little more kind of R&B in him, a little more, a little more kind of, that kind of thing. Where Cliff had a little more maybe classical stuff, had some incredible interpretation and understanding of melody and notes, and I've never seen anybody. Some of the melodies he wrote, the For Whom the Bell Tolls melody, the Orion thing that he wrote, the riff he wrote in Fates. I've never heard anybody write those kinds of melodies and put those kind of notes together before or after. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so maybe, he wasn't so, he didn't maybe listen to as much black music as Rob Trujillo did. So he can't really say, but it's and then Jason also was completely different. He kind of went more with the guitars and less with the drums, which is also very powerful because there was a great energy that came out of that. So listen, between Rob, Jason, and Cliff Burton, that's awesome that we can have three guys who all are so unique and all have great personalities and all brought something different to the band, instead of now the next guy just copies the previous guy. Fuck that. So that's pretty cool.
Okay. And so it's the first time since 15 years that you didn't work with Bob Rock this time. So was it weird to welcome somebody new with Rick Rubin to the band?
Well, it was supposed to be weird. It was on purpose. We had to make it different. We had to make it new because I think we were too scared of what's going to happen here. Maybe again, like we talked about, we end up, maybe we make Saint Anger Part 2 or something. I don't know. So, but listen, when I called up Bob Rock and told him, maybe we make some change. I think he was maybe ready for a change also.
Okay.
Listen, Bob Rock is one of my very best friends. I love the man. I've played him Death Magnetic. It was important for me to hear what he had to say, and so it's all good. It's all good.
Okay, and in your opinion, what did Rick Rubin brings to the table for Metallica?
His contribution was his contributions are big picture. He's very much about big ideas. He's not a musician. He's not a guy who sits and goes, that should be different than that. He's like, play in a higher tuning, because when you play in a higher tuning, James Hetfield's vocals sound better. Okay, so we try and play in a higher tuning, and James Hetfield's vocals sound better. When you play, don't worry about your own instrument. Only think of the other three guys in your band. Okay. So now you listen to the other guys, and listen, for the first time in 25 years, you're playing together. It's this kind of stuff that he says. He goes, it's too fast. It's very big picture. It's that part doesn't fit with that part. It's that type of stuff. He's he's not somebody who gets involved. You know, he doesn't turn buttons on the desk. He doesn't pick up a guitar and go, try this chord instead of that chord. He doesn't do any of that stuff at all. He sits on the back, on the couch, and he plays with his beads, you know, and he suggests these types of things that I tell you. He goes, you're not playing together. Listen to each other. Fucking play together. Literally, that's what he does. It's all about the vibe.
Yeah, the vibe, the mood.
The vibe, and it's also very difficult because you have to believe in him. Because if you don't believe in him, it can be very difficult to figure out what he does. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, you know, his standard answer to everything, don't worry about it. It's going to be great. Well, Rick, what about, you worry too much. Just play. Well, but it's going to be great. Okay. And so after a while, you kind of sit there and you have to kind of surrender to this, and you just go, okay, I trust, I buy it. I believe in the magic of Rick Rubin, whatever the fuck that is, because it's very hard to pinpoint. It's very hard to talk about even, you know. But, you know, it's just, that's what it is. And, you know, listen, I'm pretty sure that he's aware of that too. I mean, I think he uses the mystery of it a little bit also to empower himself. But he's a very, 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 very smart guy. And he's got an incredible set of ears. And he's really, really just lives and breathes music 24 hours a day. Rick Rubin is not a great believer in big, you know, ambience and everything sounding very big. He wants things to be tight and in your face, you know, and lively. A lot of life, you know. It's all about, it has to sound lively.
And yeah, we talk. You say you wasn't scared anymore about the past because I mean, when I saw the set list currently, it's like you bring so much old school stuff. Like in Bologna, you play even 5 songs from Kill 'Em All.
We did.
From Ride Lightning. Yeah, you play
5 from Kill 'Em All.
Yes, you can destroy Whiplash, No Remorse, Motor Breath, and Four Horsemen. So it's 5 songs. So I mean, even in the Master of Puppets too, I'm sure you didn't play 5 songs from Kill 'Em All.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And,
no, I don't count it. I mean, I just sit there and go, you know, what would be fun to play tonight?
I mean, before in the 90s, I had the feeling that Metallica was proud to being controversial, you know, and we do what we want to do, and that's it. And you know, we'll say now you're less maybe self-indulgent, less selfish, and you want to please more the fan with this kind of set list.
No, what I want to do is I want to play a different set list every night. So I make a different set list every night. I don't sit so much and think about old records, new records. I can tell you, when I come to Bologna, okay, I walk into the dressing room, and in the dressing room is the set list from the last 10 years of concerts in Italy. And I try to always make it different so that the Italian fans will see as many different shows as possible. So when I come to France and Arras in 3 weeks, I'll sit and look at the last couple times we played at Bercy, and when we played at the Saint-Germain Stadium in '04, and I would look at the the set list, and I'd go, okay, here's 7 different songs that we didn't play the last 3 times we were. That's how I do it, basically, to give the fans the most, and to and it's fun. It keeps it fresh for us, because listen, if we had to do the same thing we did in the '90s, we'd play the same fucking set list every night. That would kill us. Do the same shit every night now. That's a no go. We can't do that anymore because it's just too. It's not fun. So you have to. We have 40 songs, maybe 45. We can pretty much play at any given time, you know. And
yeah, I think that's cool, especially for the people like me who like to follow bands a bit. So.
Yeah, I mean, and also, and for 2 other reasons is we have a lot of people that follow us on tour all the time, so we obviously want to make sure that they are respected, and we also have this thing, what's it called, Live Metallica, where the show is available within a day or 2, so you can listen to the show, and so now it's not just, the show is not just for the people in the concert. but the show is also for the people all over the world that want to listen to the shows every day. You know, so it works for everybody.
Yeah,
it works for us. It works for everybody. So it's you bring up a good question. I mean, I haven't been asked that yet. It's a good question. I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe Metallica is a little bit less self-indulgent than we were in the 90s. Maybe as we grow a little older and maybe we're more content with the family, and maybe I think that I've been very scared over the years of pleasing the fans too much, because I was always afraid that if everything was just about the fans, it would become a product. Mm-hmm. That I might as well be, Pellegrino. It's like, do you know what I mean? You open a bottle of Pellegrino, and you know what it tastes like.
Trademark.
Right? Yeah, you know what it tastes like. So I don't want to be Kiss, or I don't want to be something where you know what's going to happen all the time. And I think maybe, listen, it's 27 years. I mean, the great thing about this ride is that it always changes. I mean, how fucking boring would it be if it was the same all the time? So maybe in the 90s we're self-indulgent, in 2005 to 10 we'd give the fans different set lists. Who the fuck knows, maybe 10 years from now, who knows what's going to happen, you know what I mean? So the beauty of that is just you roll with it, and it continues to change, you know? That's what keeps it alive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
at least for us.
No, also for the fans, yeah. The fact that change, is great. I mean, personally, I like the fact that now you're doing those different setlists, and I also love the fact that you had the balls to bring Load in the 90s, because Load to me is one of your best records.
Thank you. Yeah, I love Load and Reload.
Yeah.
They're great records. They're very different. Every time I hear, something, we played Devil Dance.
Yeah, in Big Pop.
A couple of months ago for a little while, and it was like, so I listened to a couple of songs. I mean, that's heavy, nasty shit, man. That's great. But like I keep saying, people say, Reload, not so. I go, listen, if Reload's the worst album, that's not so bad. Then we're okay.
and Saint Anger was also controversial in a way. And what is your opinion on this one with a distance now?
I understand it's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that more and more. But we did it, and we had the balls to stay with it, and it was very necessary to do at the time. We had to do this album this way, because I think that we were too fragile with what we were dealing with in the wake of Jason leaving and so on, to go back to repeat the way we'd made all the records in the 90s. So we had to force ourselves literally to say the process has to be different, because if it's not different, there's a chance we can slip back into doing it the same way, which was really fucked up, where all these arguments and all this bullshit, and it was really stressed out, and it just wasn't fun. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? When I think back on the 90s, increasingly, it wasn't very much fun. It was just, and fucking an album every year, and every day battling James Hetfield and Bob Rock, and every day fucking, it was not fun. Do you know what I mean? So the Saint Anger thing had to be something completely different. It was. And out of that came a record that for some people was difficult, but other people find a beauty in the energy and the difficultness. And listen, it's all part of them. It's part of all the records. I wouldn't change a thing about it.
It was sort of a stepping stone to...
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. At one point, when the movie came out in 2004, I haven't told many people this, but at one point, we asked Randy Staub to remix some of the songs to make them sound a little bit more like some of the earlier stuff, to make them sound not so Saint Angry. And we did, 2 or 3 songs like this, and it was like, whoa, wait a minute. That's the fucking biggest sellout we've ever done, you know what I mean? You can't do that. You can't. That's reneging on the management thought maybe, if we you know, I was like, fuck that, you know, we can't do that. That wouldn't be right to Saint Anger and the work that went into it, you know, and so it is what it is, and I'm pretty sure that that if it wasn't for Saint Anger, like I said, you know, the way it is, you know, Death Magnetic wouldn't be the way it is. So, you know, it's all for the greater good.
Okay. And yeah, you mentioned some kind of monster movie, which is complete opposite of 1 year and a half with Metallica to me. Like in 1 year and a half, you're like gods of the universe, you know, like the biggest band and stuff. And some kind of monster, obviously, it shows a band like which is pretty weaker than that, you know, and fragile. And but it came out in 2004 or 2005, 2004.
Yeah.
So, but at that time, and especially right now, the bands feel really confident again on stage. I mean, and really strong again. So, would you say it was? Do you think it was a really right thing to put out this movie at this right time? Because you know,
I mean, you know me well enough to know that I don't right, wrong, all that shit. I mean, it's. We asked Joe Berlinger and Bruce Anofsky to come out and film some stuff of us making the new record in the Presidio. Then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. James goes away for a year, and the fucking mindfuck of all time happens, and they're there filming it. We didn't ask him to come make a movie about the downfall of a band. Mm-hmm. We asked him to come out and film us in the studio for maybe what we call an infomercial or a making of thing for DVD.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, 2 years later, Joe Berlinger says, I think I have the most unique, incredible movie about a rock band ever made. And we go, okay. And we realize that the movie is really about, what the movie is really about, of course, it's about, you know, it's about a band making a record. It's about what happens to these guys when they're making a record. But what it's really about is just, it's access. It's access to something that you've never seen before. And that is, to me is the coolest thing about it, is that we made a decision that 25 years ago that we wanted to be accessible for the fans. And to me, this movie is the last statement in that accessibility. You don't get any more access to a band than Some Kind of Monster, and I'm proud of that. And of course, maybe there's some things in there that you shouldn't see, maybe some things you don't want to see, but listen, you want the access, here's the fucking access. Knock yourself out. Okay? And so, and that I'm proud of, you know, so.
Yeah, because in 1 year and a half was like also many access, but only the good side of it.
Yes, yeah, of course, yeah. So, you know, and listen, to me, that will always be the cool thing about that movie, is that.
And you were not afraid to.
We gave people the access, and we didn't edit anything out. We told Joe and Bruce that we were good with, we trusted them. And obviously, why the movie works is because it has a dramatic arc to it. There's a happy ending, you know, I mean, it's like you couldn't script this shit, you know what I mean? Unbelievable. So I'm definitely proud of it. It's kind of weird, you know, it's kind of weird to sit and talk about it, because it's a very long time ago.
Yeah.
And it's a difficult time, you know, but it's 6 years ago, and things, as I think you've said, you can feel that things are very different in the band. And so, and we're obviously very proud of that.
Especially live, you feel again the pain has been strong. You, especially on those gigs I saw, Big Pop and Bologna, they were even better than Saint Anger 2, I think. And also Donington 2006 was also great. You know.
It feels like this band in the last, starting with the 06 tour, when we came back, South Africa was great, but not when we. I don't know what happened, but when we stepped down on stage at Rock am Ring, the first show on the European tour, of '06, and the first night we played Master Puppets. It was one of the best shows we'd ever played. It was live on MTV. It was the first show. We were nervous. It was fucking freaky. And I don't know why, but we walked out and we fucking nailed it. And I say that rarely. Trust me, I don't say that very much. Okay. And we're like, cool. Okay. So the next night, we stepped out on stage at Rockham Park, you know, and we played a show that was almost as good as the night before, and we're like, fuck. And we ended up playing some of the best shows of our whole career that whole summer. And since then, it just feels like there's been a new way of connecting on stage, or a new fire or something. I mean, I hear it from the fans, and of course I can feel it a little bit, you know. I'm not saying we don't. Maybe last night it was very difficult because it was raining a lot and, you know, blah, blah, blah. But I think generally since the summer of '06, we've played some of the best shows we've ever played. And it's things are pretty spunky. And there's a good fire, and Hetfield is great. And it's just with Trujillo, it's great. It feels good, and it's fun, and it doesn't feel... oh shit, now we have to be on the road for a year. Oh fuck, you know, it's like you go out for a couple of weeks, it's cool, you know. It's like,
yeah, it's more laid back. And,
yeah, it's good.
Yeah, we can show some kind of monster that your dad's opinion on the record seems to be important, you know. And so, how did you feel about Death Magnetic now?
I've played the new record for Rob Flynn, for Jerry Cantrell, for Bob Rock, for a couple of guys in System. I played it for a couple of the guys in Merciful Fate last week. And of course the scariest guy to play the new record for is my dad. But he liked it, gave me the approval. Said it sounded like Metallica. I think that's the ultimate compliment. So it's been good, you know. People have been very responsive to this. I've played a few tracks for a few friends whose opinions I trust, and Mike Inez and a couple guys. It's been good, but you know, my dad is not going to let me get away with anything. You know what I mean?